So we're live now.
To be good.
All right. I'm Michelle Rehill. I am the chair of the Library Trustees Building and Grounds Subcommittee, and I call this meeting to order at 6:33 p.m. And that's all I have for opening remarks. I'm sorry. There we go. Although maybe I should ask, does somebody want to be responsible for taking notes for this minutes for this meeting? Anyone? Anyone?
If not, I can use, the town does have a tool, so I can put the live stream into the tool and generate minutes.
That would be cool. I'd like to see how that
Yeah,
works out.
yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, we can try it out through this.
Okay.
So nobody has to take notes.
Except I'll make notes to myself anyway.
Right.
All right. So, Jen, do you want to kick off the whole issue of the discussion of signage?
Yes. Um, First, I apologize for sending you a packet on the later side. I wasn't going to send one, and then I thought, well, it will save time if I send a summary. Um,
Helpful.
So just very briefly to summarize what I had sent you, um, we do have grant funding to do some signage, because that is what our focus groups indicated and our surveys indicated would be helpful for the population, that we're trying to serve with this grant, which is, generally adults with age-related memory loss. So whether that's dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, or just general cognitive decline due to age. We set out originally thinking that we would buy a certain, there's some specific collections that are meant for adults sort of coping with memory loss. We set out when we applied for the grant, we thought, well, we'll go this route and get the grant and buy these materials and see how they circulate. But then when we really got into the focus groups, people were like, well, honestly, I like reading the daily paper. I like the magazines. I like poetry, things that I'm comfortable with, things that resonate with me. I don't really want, there was no interest in the materials really. But they said, what would be really helpful would be if you had any signage in the building whatsoever. And they're right. That's definitely not the first time that we've heard that. I don't think it's the first time this discussion has come up, but it is the first time that we've had funding and, some general, I don't think a scientific study necessarily, but that is what our focus groups in our survey indicated an interest in and a need for. And every time we've mentioned it since, people are like, you're getting signs? This is like people who use the library frequently and still maybe don't necessarily know every nook and cranny in the building. So that's sort of where we are with that. So we did go through, I think maybe the first thing that we could talk about as a group is that entrance directory. So what we would like to do, we couldn't think of a better place to put it. I mean, a directory for a building really should be when you first walk in. So where that bulletin board is right now, right next to the conference room on the left when you walk in, that is the ideal spot for a directory. It's big enough, and it's right when you walk in. It would be one of the first things that you saw other than the desk. So it would be really hard to, if you're looking for signage, for wayfinding signage and for a directory, it would be hard to miss it. If we put it anywhere else, it's too far into the building, and then you already have probably stopped at the circulation desk to ask. Does that make sense? Is there any concern about that location?
No
No.
concern. I wonder if, because that's perpendicular to where people are walking as they walk in,
Mm-hmm.
whether there's anything we can do that is, then I guess then perpendicular to that to draw people's attention in. Something that sticks out from the wall a few inches that says, map or whatever whatever we want, or hanging from the ceiling with an arrow, or, everybody come look at this kind of a thing. Just so, because this is important for people to see. So it's just something to get them there.
I'm going to make a note of that and ask, I'm going to schedule a walkthrough with Alpha Graphics. They've been doing my regulatory signage.
Mhm.
And I've worked with them before, and for this project, it's under the threshold where we can sort of choose who we want to work with. And since I've had really good experiences with them, I think they're the ones. I did reach out and contact a few other people. I got stood up twice. Whereas Alpha Graphics hand delivered the room occupancy sign for the meeting room the day after I put in the order. Just drove it over and handed it to me, which I thought was exceptional.
Mhm.
So I'm going to schedule a walkthrough with them, and that's one of the things that I will ask them, because signage, you want it to be like eye level for most people. So we
Mhm.
do have that that overhang above the gate, which
Yeah.
from a distance, I would have thought, like, we originally thought, oh, we'll put something up there that says like directory. And then we had a consultation with Christy from the Mass Library System, and she said, don't put signage that high. People won't be able to read it. It's not accessible.
What's up there? I don't even
Just
remember
above the
seeing it.
gate, there's like
Yeah.
probably 1.5 feet of,
It's
I
like,
would want to call it a doorway.
isn't it
Oh, okay,
like,
so there's
oh,
no signage up there right now.
Nothing.
Okay, yeah,
No.
yeah. I
no,
remember seeing just, yeah,
where the
thing.
gate rolls up
Yeah,
into that
yep,
place?
yep. I thought you said
Yep.
that there was some kind of signage already there, and I was thinking, what on
No.
earth? Okay,
No, we were thinking that that would be a good place to put a sign
yeah,
that said like, look this way for the directory,
Hmm.
or even just like welcome to the library, or like
yeah,
something. And then they said don't hang signs from the ceiling, and don't put signs high up. So
yeah,
I think your point is a good one. I think maybe there's an opportunity to put something more eye
yeah,
level
yeah. I wasn't thinking like
somewhere.
that close to the ceiling.
Yeah.
So,
Just like the sign is flat on the wall, just a little sign that sticks out that says directory,
yeah,
like at the top of
yep.
the frame. Something quite simple, but
Yeah.
it's just like, look here.
Right.
While we're talking about a completely separate signage, but the same part of the building, Jen, I think I may have mentioned to you once. When you walk in the first set of double doors on the
Mhm.
left, there's a big white wall there. I've always thought that it might be good to have something there that says, "Here's our library director, here's our key staff, and maybe here are the names of the trustees," or something like that. I don't care. I care much less about that.
Mhm.
I am proud of our staff, and I think it's good to show that, so people know, who is responsible for running this fine establishment as they walk in. If not, then something pretty that's over there, because it's a big boring white wall in a prominent place. The directory shouldn't go there. That should clearly be inside the library, but something that goes there.
Yeah.
And that's separate from the signage that we're really talking about. But I wanted to bring it up just because we're on the topic.
Yeah. That might also be, if we decide that we need more bulletin board space on the first floor, like right now, the one that we're talking about getting rid of is one for library news and events, which
Hmm.
we felt was a little redundant because a lot of that stuff is also elsewhere. Or we forget to take stuff down, so there's a lot of good stuff there. But if we decide that we need more bulletin board space, that might be a good
Hmm.
place for bigger things that people don't have to necessarily stand and watch. Like, yeah, you're right. Okay.
Okay.
Something on the left side of the wall. A big empty wall. My note says big empty wall question mark.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if you had a chance to look at what we wanted on the directory. Did we miss anything? And it might be helpful. I can actually just bring the page up.
Was it?
I'm going to just share my screen.
Do we need to list the emergency exits? I mean, I don't think anyone will ever look on the directory for them if needed.
No, that probably should have been in a different.
I mean, signage to get
Especially
there,
if you're
yes,
standing in
but
front of a door, you
yeah.
probably don't need to know where the other exits are. Turn around.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah, it's more like it's a thing that has a sign inside.
Right. That's probably more for the, yep, I see we did add it on the second floor. And on the second floor, pointing people to the exit. I don't know. Are they gonna, then maybe that doesn't need to go on the directory either.
Right. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think so.
there should just be those lit signs that say exit,
Yeah.
which there are.
Yeah.
All right.
And stairs also, I don't think we need to list that there are stairs on the first floor.
You would be surprised how many people ask us where the stairs are.
Right at the circulation desk?
Yes, yes, I'm not kidding you. I am
Okay.
not kidding you.
Okay.
They'll walk right past them, go into the children's room and ask where the stairs are.
Well,
Well,
it's that
lived experience.
wall in front of it it's so attractive. You don't.
It looks
No.
decorative.
It's decorative, and you don't look at it and see. Oh, look, I see stairs. It's not like railings, and you can see through it, or.
Right. Yeah, and there is no sign that points to them and says stairs. And it is actually oddly less intuitive. I know it sounds funny when you see it on a directory, and they're not that far from the directory, but when I asked staff, what do people ask you how to find, stairs was one of the first things that everybody said. For some reason, they want to go around the corner to the meeting room and look for stairs that way. I don't know what that human behavior is that makes them want to do that, but
Okay.
I'm not going to argue with it.
Okay.
I'm on the fence about including the family restrooms. I think that might be something that we could just have a sign for in the children's room. Because when you first come in, there are restrooms immediately to your right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, what I like
And-
about those is they're gender neutral. They're for people that need a little bit more space for one thing or another. I don't want to feel like we're hiding those.
Actually, they do have changing rooms too, and those are the ones. Yeah, I'm gonna leave them in. Good point.
I agree.
One's crinkling a bag of chips in my background. Sorry.
Having snacks.
Yeah, it's dinner time. Let's see. Is there anything? I think what we might do is like test run a directory before we commit to it and just put something up and have somebody like walk through for us, somebody maybe that doesn't use the library every day, and just tell me what we might be missing.
You remind me what tap room is? I know which room it is, but what does it stand for?
Teen and adult programming.
Okay.
And it will say that.
Okay.
Like we won't abbreviate it. It's It used to be the computer lab.
Yeah.
We've been trying to change all of our names of our rooms to things that make sense. So like we used to have the reference room,
Mhm.
which is just a study room. And then we had a quiet study room, but then we have a quiet study area. So it's study room A and B. And then we had the room of requirement, I think was the children's programming room. And the room upstairs was the room where it happens, which was a Hamilton reference, maybe. And so now it's just teen and adult programming room, children's programming room.
I was concerned about TAP as an abbreviation as to what it meant
Yeah,
and
we
whether
don't
people
use
would
that
think that we were,
externally.
serving beer up there.
I don't think that would be quite the right vibe to use externally. Um, and we had concerns too when we were like, okay, teen and adult programming TAP. So we couldn't think of anything better. It is the right descriptor for the room. But yeah, on the directory, it would say probably programming room because teen and adult programming room would be too many letters.
Mhm. Do we want to put anything on there for like the materials that you can pick up outside the adult services desk, or whether
Oh,
that
the
goes
whole
somewhere
shelf.
else? Like we used to have the COVID tests there, and things like, you know, like an information desk, or I don't know what to call it, the place to get piles of paper.
We, on the second floor, you mean?
Yeah.
We are working on, so part of the health and wellness plan, one of the things that universally everybody thought was a great idea was a wellness hub.
Hmm.
So we are working on sort of a slight reformat of that area.
Okay.
More to come on that. Um, so I don't know if it needs to go on a permanent directory, but at some point that will probably be something just like where the collections are located, where we'll have some kind of flexible signage so that, down the road, if a wellness hub is no longer the appropriate use of that space and we want to make it into something else, we're not stuck with a directory that we have to pay money to change.
Is this, I apologize for asking a million questions. Um, will this be just like one single sign that has all the letters sort of etched into it that wouldn't be able to change? Would it be like row by row where you could swap something out?
I think personally it would be wise to get something where each row is its own thing so that you can
Hmm. Okay.
switch it out. Um, these are meant to be more permanent
Yeah.
than not. So we tried to stick to things that are fixed.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think if we rename a room or we realize that, boy, this, we forgot this one thing, or,
Mhm.
we really should use this name instead of that name because of something that happens external to us in a year.
Right.
Um,
We moved the copier downstairs
yeah.
for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, we do want to have that flexibility.
Okay.
So the way that I'm envisioning it is it's, a rectangle and it has the thing that slides out.
Okay. Great.
So it wouldn't be a huge cost to have to change things,
Yeah.
but um,
Okay.
okay. My second question, I think that kind of gives me enough to go on to come up with a draft for the downstairs directory. That one's a little bit easier. When you get to the second floor, um, there's no directionals. And I think the second floor is where a lot of people are getting lost. It's long. There's a lot of different things. We're trying to make it make a little bit more sense, but there's a lot of things that kind of get lost in the corners. The bathrooms, nobody knows where they are. I put up a sign, I put it at the wrong height. it helps some people, but it still doesn't really direct people accordingly. I've had people actually ironically like try to go into the elevator because they thought that's where the restroom was. Again, human behavior. Now here's the thing. People come up the stairs and they're facing the reference desk right in front of them. The only thing they could, there's the wall behind the reference desk, and then there's pillars that are curved, which is not ideal for signage. If you come off the elevator, you're looking at the stairs, basically. So what we're tripping on is the location of a second floor basic directory, because we don't know where the right place is really to put that. The top of the stairs has a wall, but then you're standing at the top of the stairs to look at it, and it's sort of sideways, so none of the arrows would make sense. Like you want it to be able to face so that it's being able to point you left and right. So I was hoping you would have a brilliant idea.
No.
If you're going up the stairs and you turn left like you were going to the teen room, is that wall that is now to your left, is that just the window? Do you get to the window first, or is there a wall and then a window?
It's a very skinny bit of wall, and it's mostly window.
Okay. Yeah, I know it was mostly window. I didn't remember how much wall there was. It's
Yeah.
probably just like 6 or 8 inches.
Yep.
Okay.
I personally think that the best place to put it, unfortunately, is not ideal, but it's behind the reference desk on the wall, as
I
long
was
as it's
thinking
big
that
enough.
too. It needs to be large enough.
Right.
Yeah, that makes a larger sign.
Yep. And then when you get off the elevator, if there's something that says directory, to your point of like making sure people can see it in the lobby,
Hmm.
if there's something off the elevator that points people in that direction so that when they turn, they can see it.
We
So they don't
could,
go the
in
wrong
theory,
way.
put a sign inside the elevator with arrows for both the floors. For that, I would think, a laser printed sign as opposed to something professional like this. But
Mhm.
that could help people who wouldn't know to turn around the other way.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've ever been in the elevator. So
I have,
I
and I'm
have, but not in
thinking of
years. Yeah.
there's two walls that, like, if you go into a hotel, you would see advertising
Hmm.
on like a big, it's almost
Yep.
like a thing that you slide into a
Yeah.
little plastic folder thing, as opposed to, yeah, something permanent.
Hmm.
Hmm. You're a genius. Dun, 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 dun. You're forgiven for asking so many questions for that. I earned you 5 more questions.
I'll have them.
Michelle's like, no.
Ah,
All right, that is perfect. All right, so the second floor, we assume that they've seen the first floor directory, so the second floor directory really just has what's on the second floor. Um, so it's slightly different than, whereas the one in the lobby would have like first floor and some headings and second floor and some headings. The one on the second floor would just say, go this way for this and this way for this. All right, because I assume if they're upstairs, they're looking for something that they've found to be upstairs. Challenge that assumption if I'm wrong. All right, and then basically the rest of the signage that we would be talking about is more like wayfinding, just individual throughout the building. Um, when you first walk in, it would be nice to know that the meeting room is around the corner. So finding some way to direct people, and I'm going to ask the consultant if he has any good ideas for that, because that's a tricky corner because you're almost doing a 180. And the number of people that have made it all the way up to the second floor to ask where the meeting room is indicative of a signage problem. So things like that, where the restrooms are, specifically the children's restrooms. Every time I cover at the children's desk, which is right next to the restroom, we get questions. Where is your restroom? Where is your nearest restroom? Where is the changing station? Obviously, that's a signage issue because they are 3 feet away. It's great that we have that accessibility ramp in the children's room. It would be even greater if people knew it was there. So, and that was another thing that the consultant from MLS pointed out was, this is an amazing feature of the building and you guys should be really proud of this and you should probably let people know it's there. Because usually by the time they see it, they're already sort of past it and kind of using the few stairs that are there. So it's just, it would be nice to make it easier for people. And then one of the things that we heard over and over again is when you're in the back old part of the building, especially if you've been there for a while, so you're quietly reading in the quiet area, how to get back out. Very important, especially if you're talking about an audience with cognitive decline or memory loss, especially, they like to, they expressed a desire to utilize that quiet area more. But they said, after an hour or two of sitting in that, they like those high back chairs that are in the near the fireplace, if you can visualize those, if you've seen them. But after an hour or two, they get a little turned around in the building. And that's fair. That's pretty far from the stairs. So that's where there's an opportunity. I think that little vestibule that probably was the old lobby entrance from the old building, or some signage that says, go back this way for the stairs in the bathroom. Let's see. And then we would just want them to match. So design wise, there's not a whole lot of beauty aesthetic in this. These are just high contrast regulatory style signs that tell people where they're going. Excuse me, where it makes sense, they'll have Braille. Where it doesn't make sense, they won't. Like the directory probably does not necessarily make sense, big and high on the wall, to have Braille. So I will just probably leave that to the consultant and ask him from an accessibility standpoint what the best route is for each type of sign that we're looking at.
Might be worth it. I think the town does have an ADA consultant. I remember a discussion about that a few years ago. It might be good to run a final version of this before purchasing.
Yeah.
But I think Diane is the town's ADA coordinator, so she would know who to
Yep. And
contact about
Sean
the
is actually
rules.
working on signage for the town hall.
Oh, okay.
With a separate consultant.
Yep.
Who wasn't quite right for our purposes, but I think he would have some insight as well. But yeah, I would think there's a few steps with this, just because we want to make sure that anything that we do is actually going to solve the problem,
Yep.
is accessible, and doesn't create new problems. So not a bad idea to just run it through whoever might have good input for us.
Yeah.
Christy also from MLS also offered, when we have a draft, if she said, I'd be happy to look at it if you want. That's also at no charge. So, hey, more the merrier. The last sort of stack of things are kind of outside this project, but I did just want to mention that we are looking at signage for collections and things that might not be quite so static. But we don't want to do that right now because we are moving things. So it doesn't make sense. One, it doesn't make sense to include them in this project. We're not sure how much what we do need is going to cost. So we want to get a quote for what we absolutely critically need first. And then our collection signage, once we're done moving stuff and we're happy with where we've put things, then we'll worry about slightly more temporary adjustable signage. So that's sort of like a phase 2 of signage. But I did just want to mention that we have a whole chunk of signs that we will upgrade. They're purposely left out right now. Okay. So like I said, our next steps would be to like draft stuff. Kind of this is what we're looking at, talk to that design consultant from Alpha Graphics, get his recommendations, get a price, get some mock-ups, put them out, kind of test and refine before we commit to purchasing. And then go from there. So probably have this committee meet one more time before I pull the trigger on that, just to take a look at it. And if it needs to go to the Board of Trustees, I'm perfectly happy to do that as well. That is, I would leave that up to the chair as to whether they need to vote on anything or if this committee is empowered to make those decisions with me. But I would not want to make a final order on signage because I feel like it's such a big addition to, like, if we do it right, it's going to really help. And I don't want to do it wrong. So.
Yeah.
Anything else on signage? Did I miss anything?
I can't
I don't. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Michelle.
No, go ahead. No, I was just saying, I read through everything, I looked at it and didn't make any notes, so that meant that as I read through it, I wasn't going like, well, what about this? Or what have I had trouble with? So I feel as if you pretty well covered it.
Graphic novels that are adult, I don't see, because I look at those. Um, Not adult, of course, but um, so I see the young adult and I see the juvenile, and there's that section on the second floor
Oh, yeah.
that
That's a
has,
good point because that's the hardest collection to find sometimes.
yeah.
AG. Okay. Thank you. We did learn a few things with the consultant report. I haven't had a chance to go through the whole thing with all of the children's room specific recommendations, but I did look at the signage and just simple things like not laminating your signage, even though it lasts longer. I mean, there's a real temptation. Like I saw that and I was really sad because I like to laminate things.
Ooh,
I like them. I like using the laminator. It's fun. Makes things, the paper curls if I don't. But thinking about that from an accessibility standpoint, the glare, things like that was a good point. Putting things, especially in the children's room, putting things at multiple heights so that children can see them and also adults, I thought was spot on. So we will go back and look at our, we have our permanent signage, our semi-permanent signage, and then things that will stick up for a little while and then pull down when they're no longer relevant. So we'll go back and inventory all that because I know for a fact that we have a lot of laminated signs.
Also on signage, but exterior signage, we approved that exterior sign a year or so ago. I'm curious where that is. You don't have to give us an update on it now, but signage had that pop into my head. If you want, you could tell us offline or at a full trustee meeting.
Yeah, I'll put something in my next report, but the basic, I know it was going through a design sort of refinement. They had like an initial mock-up from their selected vendor, and it wasn't quite what they were looking for. And not surprisingly, the electricity to light a sign is a lot more expensive because of the amount of trenching that you have to do to get into the library building. You can't just pull the electrical in through the front part of the building. It has to go all the way down to the side. So if you're interested, when the snow melts in 6 months, I can show you the hole that they drilled where the electricity has to come in.
Okay.
And then, so just imagine, if you remember where the sign itself is going to go,
Yeah.
which is more on you're facing the building to the right side, you have to trench all the way across our property, not the state property, which is a weird property line. So it kind of goes at an angle, and then down and around the side of the building and come in kind of in between the new and old part of the building.
Mhm.
So it's expensive.
Yeah.
But I have not seen a price yet. Just I've been told like it's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I don't
mean,
think that's a surprise to us.
right. I mean, when the funds were approved for it, there was additional funds put in with the
Right.
thought that there might be surprises.
Yep.
So yeah, just curious. Okay.
Yep. I think Scott has the lead on that, Scott Charpentier,
Mhm.
from DPW. And yeah, the last I heard, they were going back to the design, through the design and saying, you know, this isn't quite right. Let's make these adjustments. Let's refine this. And they're also working on a couple other signs. So it was trying to figure out, does it say fire department or just fire? Does it say police or police department? Ours is what ours is, right? We already decided that. And I think ours was the most fleshed out in terms of what we wanted it to say, what we wanted it to look like. Um, the rest were sort of like, yeah, we'll figure it out when we get there. What seal goes on it? Is it the town seal? Is it the fire department seal? So because it's a project that has a few different components and a few different departments, I think it's still being refined. And so I would expect that sometime in the spring we would have that sign, and that will be a huge deal
Yeah.
because people still can't find
Yeah.
the library. I think at some point we ought to look at the signage in the back in the parking lot. We have a lot of different signs that tell people who can park in our sign, and it's fine. We don't necessarily have to do anything with it. I just think there's a lot of different tiny signs, and
Mhm.
maybe at some point we want to look at whether it would be more impactful to have just one larger sign instead of like 4 signs stacked on top of each other that tell people not to park here when they're gonna anyway.
Yeah.
And you'll have at least just one sign you have to point to.
Right. Instead of like, all these 900 signs. That are all like, they all say it slightly differently. They all have like a different font. They're all a different color. It looks like clutter. I think sometimes it actually makes it a little harder to
Yeah.
understand what you're supposed to do there. Um,
Okay. That
Yeah.
sounds like for one of the agenda items, we have the subcommittee goals for 2026.
mhm.
Addressing the outside signage
Mhm.
can be one of our goals.
Yes. Yeah, I think signage is a nice, attainable, really rewarding goal for us, for 2026. That could be the only goal, is to address all the signage inside and outside the building. I did not want to make that assumption. So if there are things that are on here, I purposely have been holding off on meeting with the long range planning committee about the trust funds, because I did want to have this conversation about either working, like maybe our goal for the rest of the year is to work towards some kind of priority list. We don't necessarily have to do it today. I have a feeling you probably need some more information on a lot of these things before you could determine what level of priority they are. But just developing some kind of forward plan and then looking at whether it's a grant project, whether it's something we've got the funds for now, like we probably have funds for, like, say, the conference room table. We could probably tackle that in a small amount of time. But is that, is that the most important thing? So that is sort of the other reason that I wanted us to meet tonight, is just to talk about how to start creating a forward plan, and what information you might want from me that will help you determine the priority of these things. And then, am I missing anything?
I have two things that are related under maybe a category of security.
Mm-hmm.
One would be revisiting a discussion that took place before you came on board, Jen, which was like video security,
Mm-hmm.
cameras, parking lot. There was some discussion about cameras in the building, which is a different conversation than just outside
Mm-hmm.
cameras, and that's a big conversation because it has a lot of implications, technical and non-technical. Is it something that the town is preparing to do townwide or not, or is this something we go on our own? But I think there are some real benefits, and thankfully there hasn't been any large issues in the parking lot or outside the building. But every once in a while, I think it's good to have a video record of things that take place parking lot, outside the entrances, around the back side of the building.
Yeah,
You know,
Mitch, you and I have been part of this conversation that the outside of the building, the back, especially the back side of the building, is of real concern, has been of concern to me for a long time. And I think that I would like to see that as a goal to look into that. Not that we have to do it and get it all done by the end of the year, but figure it out and figure out what makes sense and
yeah,
see if anybody else is dealing with any of this.
yeah. I think we need to. It's if I remember correctly, we even approved funds to do it
Mhm.
many years ago, and then we're told that it was going to be a town-wide thing in a couple of years, and this is certainly more than a couple of years later. So yeah, I think bringing it back up, surfacing the issue, and
Mm-hmm.
figuring out how we're going to accomplish it so it doesn't get dropped.
Mm.
Probably be the 2026 goal. Um, it may end up being, I don't know. I hope it's not as expensive as being a formal capital item town-wide, but we've got to figure that out.
Yeah, I think the scope is really going to drive, like,
Yeah,
does it need to be a townwide project, or are we talking about like one camera in the that points at the back side of the building and one that points somewhere into the parking lot, just generally to look at cars and not the people directly walking under the entrance.
Mm.
Um, I think that's a whole different cost than every building getting cameras,
yeah,
and not as controversial as putting cameras in the building itself. I think that would be a very heated conversation.
yes. We had that conversation once, and it was very heated. Yeah,
I have a very different opinion about cameras in the building
yeah.
versus cameras outside the building.
That
Um,
ended up being the consensus of the
Yeah.
board then.
And for the most part, it's, I'm not often concerned about what's happening during the day. It's what's happening when the library is closed. And that has been sort of the bigger issue. Um, so
I
I
think,
want I want to make sure that that's part of our thought process.
yeah, and I think the addressing the backside of the building in addition to, I mean, I think that's a perfect place for a security camera, believe it or not. It's probably the only time I'll ever advocate for a security camera. But I think the backside of our building has been built in such a way that it invites, like, just
Everything.
it has that little nook
Yeah.
Mhm.
that creates like a shelter area, and there's a little plug there for power. And we have had, I would say, 3 or 4 issues in the last couple of years. So whether we're looking at policy, even just to say that the building grounds are closed after hours or after 10 o'clock or something like that, which you have broad authority as the trustees to do because you govern the grounds separately from the town bylaws governing the rest of the town property. Whether it's a security camera or whether it's even just some landscaping or something, some lights back there, just something that makes it less attractive for people to congregate and hang out back there late at night.
Mhm.
Maybe separate from the security question, an item on the goals of looking at landscape design of the back of the side of the building,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. A lot of the actually landscaping in general is probably something that we want to take a look at. The landscaping that was put there when the building was renovated was not sized correctly. Like when the trees were small, they were great.
Mm-hmm.
They probably fit the space.
Yeah.
But over time, those trees grew bigger and the roots grew into the building and died. The trees died. So we had to take a lot of them out over the last couple of years because, and the bushes too, they've been dying because they've outgrown that space, which leaves gaps in the landscaping, which is not super attractive anymore. And then we took the shed out
Mm-hmm.
in that corner, and there's an opportunity there, I think, to do something nice with that part of the
Yeah.
landscaping and create a nice little ADA compliant seating area. Whereas like the rest of like even just to complete a walkway around the back of the building would probably cost more than it's worth because of the slope. But even just to be able to do something nice where we can, I think might be
Mm-hmm.
a
Mhm.
low lift that would have a high impact.
Yeah. I mean, we could say a high level of landscape design being in a
Mhm.
goal for 2026. And it would probably be, it might be a 3-year implementation plan once we figure out what we're doing, just basically the scope.
Okay.
The other security item that I had in mind, less critical, is we've talked a little bit about keys to the front door and so forth, whether it might make sense to replace that with a key fob or some other electronic entry system so that you can
We
disable or
may
enable people more flexibly than you can with physical keys.
we may need to replace the entire front door.
Okay,
Sorry,
well,
it's not great. It is what
okay,
it
yeah.
is,
In
and
which
it is
case,
not great.
that's clearly a goal that we should look at that.
I was
And
not thinking about it, so I'm
okay,
glad we're having this conversation right now.
yep.
We've had we have issues with that door. I don't know if Michelle, you might remember the bike lock that locked the front door
Oh,
when the staff, when we first opened after the renovation. I was not here for it, but my staff remember it so fondly.
mhm.
Um, the door has never quite worked correctly. Um,
Can we
we have,
refer, I'm sorry,
go ahead.
can we refer to it as the main entry door?
Yes.
Because I'm old in my brain, when you say the front door, that means the door on Main Street. And I don't want anybody, and I know that's not what we're talking about, but
Yeah.
that's what I keep looking at. And I don't
The,
want anybody else to think that.
I'm
yeah.
doing the same thing, Michelle.
Yep.
Oh, thank you, Amanda.
Good point. Yep. The entrance side of the,
Just the
off the
main
parking
entry
lot,
door.
so the main entry doors, are not quite they're not great. We've had to have Sean come and kind of fix them here and there. Sometimes it's hard to lock them. Sometimes it's hard to unlock them. The push button works on the first set and not always on the second set. And then I think the metal in the second set of doors is bending or something. But if you look at the front set of doors, if you want to stop by, or when we finally get a chance to do a tour as a group and meet in person, I'll show you the front door. It's locked, it's safe, it's secure. There's no issues right now. But I think it is something that we're going to have to look at.
Okay. Yeah. So that's, that's something we've got to scope out and get a price on and see what and when and how. I hope we didn't lose Jen. Looked like she was plugging in. Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
I was just plugging my laptop in for Ted.
Okay.
Sorry about
Laptop
that.
overworked and it needs a rest. Needs some support.
I didn't realize the battery was getting low until it dinged. So, yeah, so I think that's a good point. The front door. All right, so I've got the front door and then addressing, I would love to have some kind of system where I don't have to issue so many department head keys or, they can borrow one from town hall or something like that. I like that they're able to get a key if they occasionally need one. There's very few town departments that actually need it. But it's nice not to have to show up at 6 a.m. just to let in somebody. The security cameras.
Those systems are pretty relatively inexpensive. And if we're replacing a door,
Right.
that's the bulk of the cost anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
The landscaping, the backside of the building, and the security cameras outside. Okay. And the outside signage. Okay. I think everything else we'll probably need to just think about developing a forward plan for. The conference room, for example, is a want, not a need. It would just be nice to have something that's a little bit more flexible for that space. It's often big and bulky, but at the same time, like that might be a boat in the basement. I don't know if that table is going to come out of that room very easily. So we might want to address the front door before we even talk about that giant table.
Do it at the same time. You're taking off the doors anyway, take the table out.
That's true. In the meantime, I have a folder of just like when I see nice tables that might work for that space, I just kind of, it's in with everything else. The only other thing that I think it may not have to be this year for sure, but that we might want to consider spending some time on, and maybe I'm just in the research phase of this, is study space. I would like to, as best as I can, try to determine when people in town say that they need meeting space and that there's not enough meeting space, what is that ideal size that they're talking about? Are they talking about giant rooms like the meeting room where it holds 100 people? Are they talking about group space for 20? Are they talking about quiet study space for 4? And is there more than one? And once that need has been identified, obviously, like there's not much that we can do for the larger meeting room space. We have one. We'll only ever have the one at this point. But if there's a need for smaller space, should we look at finding ways to create more private, quiet spaces within the library where people can meet, whether that's accomplished through pods or through the that booth seating that is up in the teen room really attracts a lot of adults. They really like because it's comfortable and you can sit in it for a long time. There's a high back. I think the wooden chairs are probably a somewhat related conversation to creating more comfortable meeting, like small group spaces. those wooden chairs are awful after 15 minutes. I don't know how people sit in them for 4 hours at a time. But there's a lot of them and that's expensive. And I'm not sure that we need to necessarily replace all of them. But looking at, is there something that we could be doing with our space to better meet what needs people have now in terms of either individual comfortable spaces or small group spaces? Anecdotally, I can tell you that our study rooms are full all the time, and people, it's competitive enough to get one that people get a little clever trying to game the system so that they can keep the room.
Oh,
I know, it's funny. But that just, to us, it suggests that there's an unmet need or potential. So I think that might be, if everybody's comfortable with it for this year, maybe the goal is to just research that a little bit more and identify what people actually need.
I think it's a good idea.
okay.
Is there anything else?
I hope not. I already feel overwhelmed.
I feel energized. I've got this.
All right. That's
It's
what you
nice
got.
to have, well, because if you think about it, like maybe I've given you guys like a ton of things to think about, but what you've actually done is narrow my focus. Because now I know what I don't have to focus on.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know. And I was going to say, oh, I'm already overwhelmed, but I know that you're actually doing most of the work because you're in there and you're thinking about it and seeing how everything really is working in real time. You have to be there for long periods of time to get to understand what's happening. So I know it's not really as much as you just feel like, oh no, now I have to learn about doors. Now I have to learn about landscaping. Now I have to find out about this. But
Honestly,
Yeah.
my plan for the door is to ask Sean and let Sean tell me what the ideal door situation would be.
okay,
Or connect me to somebody, a door specialist, whatever they are,
Sean will know.
recommend like this is what we want, this is what it needs to do. How much is that going to cost? And then with the landscaping, I think engaging the garden club is probably my first step. I can't remember Gary.
Mhm.
Barry Phillips.
Yes, Gary
Yeah.
Phillips.
Mhm.
Would love to do a native garden like
Yes.
everywhere.
I'm sorry. Yes.
So they're probably, I mean, any landscaping architecture like stones or slabs or anything is probably, obviously they're not going to create and install that, but if somebody was to help me come up with a plan that worked for us, then I could probably talk to Sean and Scott and ask them. And if DPW doesn't have time to put in a concrete slab or whatever it is we're looking for, if it's beyond the scope of something that we can do with town staff, or would overburden them because they're so busy. Your roads are amazing, by the way.
Mm,
I'm so jealous of Northborough's roads. There's still a few inches of snow on mine. I live on a hill, so it's fun. But if it's something that they don't have the time or expertise for, they could probably point me in the right direction. So I promise to make this as painless as possible so that you don't feel like you have to become a landscape architecture expert. You just have to go, yeah, that looks nice, and it's within a good price.
that actually was my plan in the back of my head. Once I got over the we have to do all this stuff. Like, we'll just say, but yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, and with the security camera, I'll just talk to Steph and Chief Griffin and see where they're at, if they've had any conversations, or if that was like sort of a previous administration thing townwide.
Maybe David Kane too. He may have thoughts on,
Yeah,
the ability for, he may want to standardize on a particular vendor.
right. Yeah, and if, yeah, is it as simple as putting one camera or two cameras or three cameras in this area, or does my lack of knowledge about cameras, because other than like what they do, I don't really know how they work. Is it as simple like, could we put a Ring doorbell on a tree aimed at a certain spot? Is that, has technology come far enough that this is an inexpensive thing, or are we talking tens of thousands of dollars? And I'll just start there. I doubt that it's a super, super expensive thing, but I know
I'd
very
roughly
little
say
about it.
$1,500 for the central computer to manage. If you want really, really good ones, which we should
Mhm.
have, $1,500 for the central computer and $300 to $500 per camera.
Yep. And then is there like an annual maintenance fee?
I hope not.
Okay, I'll find that out.
Okay.
These are things that, we'll think
I'll
about.
I'll send you an email with what limited experience I have.
Your limited experience is more than mine.
Okay.
I have no experience,
Okay.
except that like I worked in a building that had a camera once.
Okay.
It didn't work half the time. Okay. That was 20 years ago, and things have probably been updated by now, I would hope. Okay, that's all I have.
I don't have anything else.
I have one last question. I'm sorry. I know I've burned through my five. Painting the meeting room. What's the status on that?
I will give you a bigger overview to answer your question. They have a vendor for the HVAC. So that has been 2 years, I believe, almost maybe 3. I'm not sure. I don't know. The middle years, the COVID middling years kind of run together for me, but there was an appropriation approved at town meeting a couple of years back for HVAC improvements for our building, for that part of the building. And that should address some of the humidity issues as well.
Mm-hmm.
They had to have that redesigned. That's why this project has taken a little while. They didn't want to do something that wasn't the right solution. And somewhere along the line in review, they said, you know what, this is not going to solve the problem. Let's start over. So they did, and they redesigned it. They found a vendor, they awarded a contract. That project did go out to bid. So they've started doing some of the work now. Through the winter, they should be able to finish that. It's going to be minimally, it'll interrupt the meeting room schedule a little bit, but they're trying to minimize that and avoid anything big and kind of work around anything that's already planned in there. Once that's done, that hole in the meeting room will be filled in, and then they'll be able to clean it, remediate anything that's still kind of hanging out, and then paint it.
Okay. Timing wise, this is like a springtime project now that it's been awarded.
It probably will be done before the spring, but I'm going to give them through the end of the fiscal year just to avoid making promises without, I would imagine that they would be done in the next couple of months. I think it might depend, because I think DPW is doing, and facilities are doing some of the work in-house to save money. So that might depend on how many more blizzards we get, what their schedule is, because they do have to bring in a lift to get up to the ceiling to clean all of that and paint it. And then there's some cracking. If you've seen it, it's just where the seams for the drywall seams are. There's no structural issues or anything like that, but they're going to address all that at the end. So while the vendor might be finished with their part of it, it might take a little while for DPW just to get in and do the rest of it.
Thank you.
So,
All right. So are we going to have our next meeting? You were going to work on the signs and have the tour with, I've already forgotten the name of the company, Alpha Graphics.
that's correct.
All right, so you're going to meet with them, and then after that, you'll let us know when you need to meet with us again.
We can do it that way, or if it's easier to set a meeting date now, I'm happy doing that because I would suggest the end of February, and I would be comfortable saying that I would have something for you.
Let's say, since we're on the fourth Tuesday for tonight, the fourth Tuesday of February, the 24th.
That would work for me.
I
February
think that works. Yeah, it looks like that works for me.
Okay. If something changes between now and then and we want to reschedule, that's totally fine. But sometimes I think I work better if I have even just a soft deadline. And I find that scheduled meetings kind of help so that things don't get backburnered.
Do we want to try for 6:30 again?
6:30, that works for me.
Works.
That works. Okie dokie.
Do you want to just say Zoom, or do you want to just to be determined and I can wait until I have to post it?
Still going to be February. I'd be happy for it to be Zoom.
Yeah, let's go with that. Feel free to stop by if anybody is curious about any of the things that we've talked about. And you're like, what chairs were you talking about? Or like, what is the deal with the door? I'm there every day. Feel free to stop by.
Okay.
Or just look at the door. You'll look at the front door and be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I get it. All right. So the next meeting, February 27th at 6:30 p.m. It will be remote.
24th.
Oh,
24th.
you know what? Because I had my calendar up. I
Oh,
scheduled on my phone and it went dark, so I looked up and it's the calendar on the wall is for January. Oops. February 24th at 6:30 p.m. remote. And if there are no other things to be said, I can adjourn the meeting at 7:41 p.m.
You need a motion.
Do we need, oh yeah, we need a motion. Would someone like to
I'll
make a
move we
motion?
adjourn.
That's moved by Mitch.
Second.
Thank you, Amanda. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mitch
The
Cohen,
motion-
aye. Supposed to be roll call.
Oh yeah, roll
Sorry.
call. Mitch,
Aye.
Amanda,
Aye.
Michelle says aye. The meeting is adjourned.